Welcome to the debut episode of Carry the G in MKE here on CHTV. That's right, it all rhymes, people. It's how we roll. I'm Aaron Nagler, and I am thrilled to introduce the newest CHTV contributor and my co-host here every week for the 2023 season on Carry the G in MKE. It's Camille Davis. Camille, how are you?
I am doing fantastic. I was waiting for this day to come for us to get this off the ground. That means that football is almost here. And I cannot wait to finally watch some real football that counts.
Well, I mean, that's the key, right? Because we have all off season where we're all talking basically, out of our collective, what's not really knowing anything about what this team is going to look like and various junk with opposing fan bases and things like that. But, it's nice to finally be on the precipice of actual football as opposed to preseason or training camp or what have you. But before we dive into ball, I do want to give people an introduction to yourself because I'm sure some people are familiar with your work. And for those that aren't, I'd love for them to get an idea of who you are and what's your background and where you come from. So obviously this is Carry the G and MKE. You are in the Milwaukee area. How did you become a Packers fan and how did you start creating content? Where else can people find you on these internet streets, as it were?
Yeah, so my Packers fandom goes way, way, way back. So I grew up in what I always call an unconventional household. It was me, my mom, my granny, and at that time, 3 of my uncles when I was younger. So I was in the house with my uncles a lot, and it was a lot of football, basketball, a lot of sports being watched. So I learned from a young age, if I wanted to be able to sit with Uncle Tony or Uncle Michael quietly, I had to also watch the game with them. So keep in mind, I'm approaching my mid-30s. So when I was a kid, it's the 90s. My Uncle Michael was a big Cowboys fan. My Uncle Tony was a big Packers fan. And you can imagine some of the energy in the house where I grew up. And at some point, I was going back and forth because I would watch the game with Uncle Michael and the Cowboys, and I'll go watch the game with Uncle Tony and the Packers. And at one point, Uncle Michael was like, hey, listen, I know you're a kid, but you need to make a decision. You cannot be going back and forth. Fandom, you got to be loyal. So make a decision. And I picked the Packers because at the time I was 4 and Brett Favre was number 4. And I was like, this is my team. I'm gonna rock with them. Uncle Michael said you made a terrible decision. And I've been rocking with it ever since. I can say now, my decision looks pretty good in hindsight.
Yeah, especially with those 2 on offer. Yeah, you came out on the good side of things, no doubt about it. How did you start creating content? Like I said, I know maybe some people are aware of what else you do, as it were. And I know you're a huge Wisconsin sports fan in general, but how did you start kind of podcasting, tweeting, etc.?
So started my Twitter account in undergrad at Marquette. So again, I'm Milwaukee born and raised, love the city, went to Marquette. And the professor said, you all should have a Twitter account. So I made one like, all right, whatever, this is just for class. And I realized early on that watching games on Twitter was super fun. It was like being at a bar, but you're at home at the same time. And I was like, this is perfect for me because my social battery can run out really quick. But if I can type it, we're good. So that kind of started me getting into Packers Twitter and then Bucks Twitter, and then worked full-time job. And I was working and I said, I really would love to do something with sports. And I went back to school and got my master's in sports management. And while I was getting my master's degree, I was like, I should be doing something sport related, but like I have a full-time job that has really good benefits. And at this moment in time in life, cannot lose those. So I had the idea to start a podcast just in my free time to kind of do something sports related while I'm also working and going to school, and reached out to 3 of my close friends. And after thinking about the chemistry, said, these are the 3 guys I think that we could do a really good show with. So we started the Technical Foul podcast. It's TECKNICAL. And the reason that we spelled technical that way is a play on all of our names. So my other co-hosts is Tim, the T, Eric, the E, Camille, I'm the C, and then Ken is the K. So Tech File, we did that, and we kicked that back off in 2017. And from there, we've had a lot of opportunities. We were at a Milwaukee Podcast Festival where we got to perform live. We also had a chance to network, meet a lot of people. I linked up with Kane, who does Locked On Bucks through Twitter as well. And with Technical Foul, I had some tape on me now, I guess you could say.
You do. It's true.
Yeah. Started doing the Locked On Bucks podcast with those guys and kept doing Tech File. And when I get opportunities to, speak elsewhere, I would do that. And One day I looked on Twitter and it said, you're now being followed by Aaron Nackler. And I was like, yo,
all right. All right.
Again, I was on Packers Twitter a long time ago. So you are somebody who I was very familiar with for ages. So just kind of networking, podcasting, and hustling is a little bit of how I got here.
I love it. You're right. There is tape, and I watched it, and you guys are great. And you, Camille, in particular, I loved your takes, and it was really your take, the correct take, if I may add, on Jordan Love that I really was drawn to. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a bit. First, I want to kind of dive into being a Packers fan in Milwaukee and what that means and what that's like, because obviously Corey and I with CHTV, it's funny now because we started as Packer transplants. I still am in New York, but Corey, of course, lives in Green Bay, literally across the street from Lambeau. I know you can't get much closer to the organization, but it's funny for me because I have a bit of a history, as you know, probably as a longtime Twitter follower, when it comes to the Milwaukee fan base, the gold package, if you will. I understand. Look, a lot of that is tongue in cheek. However, I will say, I understand that it's got to be just a different kind of relationship if you are in Milwaukee as opposed to Green Bay, just because everything else, if it's the Bucks or the Brewers, it's so Milwaukee centric in Wisconsin, except for this one team, which is by most accounts the more successful franchise. Obviously, the Bucks just won a championship, not taking anything away from them. But what's that like as far as being in Milwaukee? And like I had hoped that you could make it up for training camp, and that didn't really kind of work out. But I got to imagine that's part of the gig, right? Like you want to go to practice or you want to get up to a game, but sometimes it's a little difficult being somewhat far away.
Absolutely. And it's about an hour and a half drive from Milwaukee to Green Bay. And honestly, I don't think that the love of the team is too much different in Milwaukee. Like, if anything, it might be a little bit more fanatical because there are so many other like Bears fans because of our proximity to Illinois. And as you continue going south in the state, you're Racine, you're Kenosha, you do tend to see more Bears fans starting to pop up. So I think one of the biggest difference between like Milwaukee-based Packer fans and Green Bay-based Packer fans or anywhere else in the state is just that we have to deal with a far larger contingent of Bears fan on a more regular basis, which might make us a little bit more angry,
right? Yeah.
A little more trash talking because we see them more often. Like, again, I went to Marquette. And when it was time for Bears and Packers, campus would be electric because there's a lot of Illinois transplants who are coming up to college and coming up here. So that's one thing I would say is different. But I did have a colleague who was from the Illinois area. And when she moved here to Milwaukee, she was like, why do you have so much Packers coverage on? Like, you're not even in Green Bay. Like, why is every news channel have a Packers segment throughout the season? And I was like, we love our teams. Like, the Packers get so much love in Milwaukee. I'll never forget when they won Super Bowl 45. Again, I was in college. So as soon as they won, I said, let's go to Water Street, which if you're in Milwaukee, it's pretty much like the biggest bar district area, well-known one, I'll say, in the city. And I get there and there's people on top of snowbanks because there was a lot of snow that year. And they're holding up the newspapers and the streets are closed off. And we're partying like we are in Green Bay for real. Like the love is genuine down here in Milwaukee for the Packers.
I just need you all to stand up on third down when you're in Green Bay in the gold package. That's all I need. That's all I need, Camille. But I'm sure
they do more of those videos like they had in the preseason with Jordan Love saying, hey, offense, calm down. We need that. We need that education,
I love that they produce those. Those are great. Speaking of Jordan Love, as I mentioned a little bit ago, that was kind of the first thing that kind of drew my eyes, so to speak, when I was looking at your stuff. I love that you were in on Jordan early. Like, it wasn't this. It's funny watching people now get all excited about his play. And I know I've bit my tongue a lot this summer, but it's like I've seen plenty of people who were up in my mentions last year, 2 years ago, about what a wasted draft pick it was, how terrible he is, blah, 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 who suddenly are like so excited for the Jordan Love era now that they've seen him in a few preseason games. You were there much earlier on. What was it about the selection or his game or the player himself that got you excited about Jordan Love originally?
So I will not pretend to be a draftnik by any means. I was surprised like everyone else when the Packers drafted Love. We were a game away from the Super Bowl. So it was like, you could have added a high impact player here. We're thinking about the future. Then as I thought about it, I was like, it's a delicate balance of trying to win for now, but also think of the future. So the first thing I thought when we drafted Love was, well, at the very least, he'll be some inspiration for petty Aaron Rodgers to come out and prove his MVP case. Literally, I was like, it's going to be a great Aaron Rodgers season, because when he has a chip on his shoulder that he can really look at and see, he is going to go after it. And we got 2 MVP seasons. So I was like, hey, listen, in real time, I said, even if Jordan Love becomes nothing, we sparked 2 more MVP seasons out of Aaron Rodgers, kind of out of spite, but even jokes aside, although their kind of jokes are funny because they're grounded in truth. But the reality of it was realizing that Rodgers can't play forever. And I've been a huge Aaron Rodgers fan. Once we transitioned from Favre to Rodgers, I went out and bought a Rodgers jersey immediately, because I'm like, above anything else, I'm a Packers fan. So like, I hope he's good. We'll see. And to see how everything panned out, it was kind of like this whole wait and see approach. It works. And with Love, one thing about Aaron Rodgers I do have to say is how he was able to come to the franchise as a starter with all of what was around him with the Favre departure. Aaron went about it in a completely different way. And he really took hold of being that mentor to Love. And one thing I was doing while we had Love was really listening close to what Aaron Rodgers would say about him, because you can say what you want to about Aaron Rodgers, but more times than not, he's going to tell you how he feels. Now, it might be some word voodoo in there that confuses you a little bit, but he was always very clear about how he felt about Jordan Love. And he was saying, like, I see his progress. I see his progress. He's catching on. He's learning here. And when you look at what Rodgers was saying, what we were able to see from previous preseasons, you're like, oh, not there yet. You see the Chiefs game and you're like, woo, that did not go well. But then you see him in that Eagles game and you're like, I'm seeing progress. You see him this preseason, you're like, I'm seeing progress. And again, I'm Milwaukee. So Giannis always says every day we're just trying to get better every day, get better every day. And all I heard throughout camp was that Jordan Love was getting better, practice by practice. You see the growth in him. And early on, I said, I don't know the likelihood of the Packers getting a 3rd Hall of Fame quarterback in a row. It doesn't seem likely. But honestly, they don't really need him to be a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback for this team to be successful as it's currently constructed. And I just hope that Jordan Love is able to be Jordan Love. And again, the Packers fan in me is going to cheer for him. But early on, I started seeing that growth, and it was reminiscent of what we saw with Aaron Rodgers. And again, I am not trying to say that Jordan Love is going to be Aaron Rodgers or a Hall of Famer.
I know, right? Because someone on Twitter will take it that way. Exactly, like that. Exactly. That's 100% coming. There's no doubt about it.
I think he's going to be a good quarterback.
I do too. And it's the interest of not knowing that kind of makes me so excited, right? Exactly. Because to your point, there's like, come on, there's no fucking way they get 3 Hall of Fame level quarterbacks, right? But at the same time, they don't need him to be. They can win if he's not Hall of Fame level caliber, what have you. The question is like, where does he plateau or where does he end up, right? And we're not going to know that for probably years. So it's so exciting to be kind of at the start of that journey. And the other thing, and I wanted to ask you about, you're talking about like that continued progression and the fact that no, he's not going to, especially right off the bat, come in and look like a Hall of Famer. What do you think the offense looks like with him at quarterback? Is it materially different? Do you think it's pretty similar to what we saw with Aaron? Does Matt go in a significantly different kind of route? How do you, I mean, obviously this is all guesswork. We're not going to know until they kick it off on Sunday, but what is your kind of guess as far as how much the offense changes, if at all, with Jordan under center?
It's a good question to think about, because the first thing that comes to mind is, well, I hope we run the ball a little bit more. Now, I'm not sure if that was, Rodgers checking out a lot or play calls, whatever the case may be. But when you have a backfield as talented as Jones and Dillon, like you hope to see them, ride them a little bit more. So hopefully seeing a little bit more of that. But honestly, the thing that I'm seeing or thinking about when it comes to like changes we might see in the offense, yes, there will be some due to Jordan. And I think about like his mobility, like he doesn't claim himself to be a mobile quarterback, but like we know he can scoop if he needs to. So maybe we see more bootleg. I'm not sure how they incorporate that into the offense, but you might see a little bit more. And it's, again, no offense to Aaron Rodgers. It's just that the LaFleur version of Aaron Rodgers was a little bit slower, not escaping the pocket as much, pristine pocket presence, but Jordan might be able to do a little bit more outside of the pocket. And then when you look at some of the guys who we have on this offense, just really young, but when you have somebody like Christian Watson, who you saw come on the end of last season, and the speed that he has. Plus, you see Musgrave being drafted, a big tight end who can move across the middle of the field.
He can move, yeah.
Yeah, then you get Reed, another guy who's quick in the slot, who you can move around a little bit. I wonder a lot more about if the offensive changes that we see are more due to the skill positions that we have, and we're attacking the middle of the field a little bit more. We know we love the short intermediate routes in this offense, but like I'm wondering what we can do with the middle of the field with some of the talents that we have at the skill positions, in addition to what Jordan can bring to the offense as well. But overall, I don't think it'll be vastly different. I think we just might see a couple more plays that emphasize speed in the middle of the field with Jordan Love under center.
That's a really good point too, because like it's the kind of thing where it's a real delicate balance. And I've talked about this a little bit on Daily, where as Packers fans, we've gotten used to avoiding the middle of the field with Rodgers under center, right? It's just not, I mean, the heat maps every game will show you how little he wanted to go over the middle or tried to go over the middle. But at the same time, that's, he won a bunch of MVPs and has by far and away the greatest, touchdown interception ratio of all time, because he was so good at avoiding turnovers. And you start attacking the middle of the field, there are going to be a few more bodies in there, and there's probably the chance for turnovers ramps up just a little bit. I will say though, what I'm kind of thrilled about is, I can't remember, I think it was the Bengals game, the preseason game, that throw he had to Jaden Reed over the middle where Reed had to go up and get it. But it's in the middle of the field, and it's the kind of throw I don't think Aaron ever would have made. And again, it's not a knock on Aaron, but it's the kind of thing where Jordan's going to give these guys a chance to go make a play, right? And for good or ill, there are going to definitely be times where it's going to bite us, and it's going to hurt, and they're probably going to turn the ball over. But I also think the possibility, to your point, of a guy like Musgrave getting down the seam and maybe attacking the middle of the field a little bit more vertically. I'm about that life. Like I can take that, and I'll take some growing pains along the way if it means that it's opening up a whole new avenue for explosives outside of just the 9 route up the sideline, which is great. And we've seen Dobbs do it. We've seen Watson do it. We'll probably see Reed do it at some point. But to maybe open up another avenue for those big plays, I'd be all about that. That'd be cool for me.
Same.
What we're talking about the offense, and it's like it's so easy to get excited about all the new players and the speed and what have you. And then I start thinking about the defense, and I'm like, does any of it matter, Camille? Does it matter? Because is the defense good enough? Is the defense going to hold up its end of the bargain? I honestly don't know. I have no clue.
It's a Charlie Brown with the football situation where you're like, I did this last year.
Yep. Yes, yes, correct.
I don't want to get hurt. I feel it. And honestly, it's going to be one of those things for me this year as well, where it's like, you have to show me something before I start getting excited about it. But on paper, it looks good. But again, it looked good on paper last year as well. But
sure
if you dig through it, and it's kind of like, okay, well, what gives us cause for optimism and this defense? What has changed so much between last year's team and this year's team? We still have the same defensive coordinator. It's still Joe Barry. He's in the booth now. Maybe that makes a difference. Maybe
that's it. That's the change. I don't know. Like people keep asking me about that. And I'm like, I try to get excited about it, but I'm like, it doesn't matter. If you're calling cover 3, you're still calling cover 3, like at the right or wrong time.
You're just seeing it at a different angle.
I don't I guess. I don't know, man. Hopefully that makes it. I don't know.
Like we'll see, but like there's a lot of continuity on that side of the ball, which is a good thing, right? So you have the continuity. You have some young guys coming in that may take a leap, and that's what you hope for. You want to see that internal development take a step. Kingsley and Barger, like seeing Kingsley, I was just like, he's flashing all throughout. And again, this is preseason, so we're seeing different coverages. You take everything with a grain of salt. The games don't matter, but what happens in them kind of does. You're trying to see that development. So looking at Ngabare, seeing what he was able to do, seeing McDuffie take a couple of steps, Slayton, Wyatt, where it's like, okay, I'm seeing you guys do some things. Quay Walker was kind of quiet for me this offseason or this preseason, but
he was. That was interesting, right?
Yeah, but we saw what he did as a rookie. So you're like, okay, maybe he led the team in tackles. Like, hopefully we see some more development from him as well. We got some rookies who are coming in where you're like, you're intriguing. Carl Brooks, Kobe Wooden, like Lucas Van Ness, Brendan Cox, where you're like, these are some guys who look like they're improving the depth already that, last year was somewhat of a problem. Carrington Valentine, forgot about him. You're seeing some guys where it's like, hey, the depth on this defense might be a little bit better. Then you have the established talent with John Money. You got Kenny Clark. You got Rashawn Gary. You got Campbell, Preston Smith. So like on that side of the ball, there is enough talent, there's speed. You have everything theoretically you would need to have a good defense. It sounds great.
See, okay, Camille, I'm going to call you out now because maybe you were just headed there, but it's funny how you danced around all the positions and the players except for safety.
Yeah, that's the piece. That's the piece where you're like, everything. I think you posted the meme of that horse that's fully drawn in the back. And then
I didn't. Someone else did, but yeah, it was good.
Yeah, that's the safeties. That's the safeties. A lot of question marks there. So again, I gave you reason for optimism. The reasons of being like, I am really not sure how this is going to go. You look at that safety position, your last line of defense, and Darnell Savage is the best guy we got back there. And
he was benched twice last year.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Exactly.
Well, it's crazy. We're recording this on Labor Day on Monday. We don't have. I know guys are gonna talk in the locker room later. Matt was supposed to talk earlier today, but they apparently scrapped that, and he's not going to talk now until Wednesday. I'm wondering because Darnell Savage did not participate at the last practice last week. So I'm like, is Savage good to go? Because can you imagine if it was like they're rolling out Anthony Johnson Jr. and Rudy Ford week one?
Like that's
can you imagine? Or Jonathan Owens? Like that could be your starting safety tandem against the Bears.
It could, and that's the thing too about like having depth on your team. Safety was not a position where like we have a lot of depth, but injuries happen. We know it's going to happen throughout the season. So when you're looking at a position like safety where the depth is already kind of shaky, you don't want to hear about anybody being injured. So that's the only piece of defense where I'm like, big question mark could tank us, but they are so talented in so many other places. Again, they top 10 defense potential. Yeah.
Okay. Stop, Camille. Stop. Don't. I'm not allowing it. We're carrying the G right here. Not allowing top 10 talk. Can we make a tackle? Can we get off on third down? Can we create a turnover first before we start talking? This is what killed us last year, Camille.
Okay,
talking top 10, top 5.
Let me say it this way.
Let me get up there week one and get killed.
They have the talent to be a top 10 defense, even with the questions at safety, because they're just so strong everywhere else.
I will give you this. You're absolutely spot on when you highlight the depth comparative to last season, right? Where you're rolling out Jonathan Garvin last year at outside backer. This year, you're rolling out Enigbare first off the bench. You've got obviously Gary and Smith there. Cox has been outstanding all preseason. It's just the depth there is so much better. I think with Valentine's emergence at corner really saves their bacon in regards to Stokes not being ready. That helps you immensely. So, yeah, I think and then you look at the defensive front. You mentioned Brooks. He has had a whale of a summer. All of a sudden, you look at kind of almost across the board, other than safety. Yeah, the depth has taken a noticeable uptick. Now, again, they got to get on the field and freaking do it. But I feel a hell of a lot better about the depth now going into this season than I did last year heading into the season. As far as, to your point, injuries definitely happen. It's the NFL. The injury rate's 100%. It's just a question of who's able to go and who's not. And I think I sleep a little better knowing that, the depth that you highlighted is on offer as opposed to kind of things just automatically falling apart if there's a major kind of injury anywhere along the defense.
For sure.
What about we've talked offense, defense, and it's 3 phases. It's all 3 phases, Camille. So we got to talk about special teams, and I think the number one point we got to talk about is that kicker, the rookie kicker, Anders Carlson, who bit of an up and down summer, and I know there's still a lot of chatter online about the potential to bring Mason Crosby back. I think that ship has sailed. How nervous are you heading into week one with this rookie kicker who certainly has looked better at times throughout, like especially the preseason games, but he certainly had his issues with misses and some ugly misses at that, both in the preseason and in practice?
Again, not a draft nick. And I was a little shocked the Packers, drafted him in the 6th round when I saw his college. He must be an excellent kicker. Looked at his college stats and I was like, low 70s.
No, not an excellent kicker, right?
What did we see here to say that, yes, let's use a draft pick here? But again, big leg is what I was starting to hear. Like it's a big leg, trying to fill some big shoes with Mason Crosby, who, was an 80% field goal kicker throughout his career. Like he had some ups and some downs a couple of years there, but like pretty much he was going to be steady. And when you have a good kicker for so long, you can at times underestimate the importance of a kicker because you're so used to having someone who does it well. So
yeah, very true.
If there was going to be any season to have a development year for a kicker, this is the one to do it because it's a year where
that's a good point. They
don't have expectations. This is not a team people are saying like in the years past because Aaron Rodgers is that quarterback. This is a Super Bowl contending team. At this point, the NFC North is completely wide open. The Lions are favored for sure. And at one point in the offseason, the Bears were favored over the Packers, which is now flipped a little bit with betting odds. But
because Jordan got out there and it played well, and Vegas went, wait a second.
So again, if we're going to have a year for development with a kicker, like this is the time for him to come out here and do that. Like it's as low stakes pressure you're going to get in Green Bay over the last 20, 25, 30 years. So
that's a good point.
If we're going to do it, let's do it.
Yeah, I know, right? Rip that Band-Aid off. I mean, essentially, kind of what they're doing with the Mason situation. All right, let's look at this Week 1 game, shall we? I mean, it's been a fun offseason of trash talk between Packers fans and Bears fans, and as you say, they live among you there in Milwaukee.
Yes.
Obviously, the main, I would say, contention kind of points between the fan bases has been the quarterbacks, right? And the idea that Justin Fields is finally going to arrive as a passer, apparently, according to every Bears troll in my mentions. And, and then, of course, Jordan Love taking over. It's going to be fascinating to watch play out. I do not doubt that for a moment. But let me ask you about the Bears offense and Justin Fields. Are you buying it? Where do you, as a Packers fan, like try to be as objective as you can? But like the idea that we've seen him now for a couple of seasons, and his production, especially through the air, has been yikes. Yeah. And I get that he's exciting with his legs. Don't take away his athleticism. I think he can hurt the Packers. There's no doubt about it. But what do you expect from the Bears offense and Justin Fields in Week 1?
Well, if you listen to Tech File, one of our co-hosts, Ken, he's a Bears fan. So he's a Bears fan amongst us. On the podcast, and I have to listen to a lot of things that I don't find to be true. I try to be as objective as I possibly can. Sure. And with that being said, the Bears, yes, this offseason, they have made improvements to their offense. Getting DJ Moore is going to do a lot for them.
The big get, no doubt.
It is. And it also slots Chase Claypool into a better spot for
exactly
him.
Where he should be. Yes,
exactly. He should not be a number one wide receiver. Yep. They got Cole Kmet, safety blanket type of tight end. They got Mercedes Lewis, who's going to be another lineman, and we know they
got Robert Tonyan too. Good Lord.
Yeah. They need it because we know their offensive line has been Swiss cheese for a very long time. They had the rookie last year, the tackle rookie, who he played every game. He looked pretty decent. They drafted another tackle this year, so they're trying to boost that up a little bit for him. And that's part of the Justin Fields experience that we've seen the last 2 years with him. He's had to run for his life because they couldn't keep the defense away from him, so he had to run.
That's true.
He didn't have too much time to sit in that pocket and try to throw. And Ken says a lot. Hey, if you look at his college tape, he had a great pocket presence. Like he could stay in the pocket and throw the ball. He's like, I haven't been able to see it because we have no O-line. So, I mean, they've made some improvements there. It shouldn't be as bad. They've upgraded talent at wide receiver, got talent at tight end now. Running back, they always, they don't have Montgomery anymore, but they drafted somebody who can come in and take some of those snaps as well. So, they should be all right. I mean, the Bears, they had 8 games last year where they lost by 1 score. Or they had 8 games within a 1-score margin. They lost 7 of them.
Right.
So they were feisty and bad. So you would expect them to win more than the 3 games this season. And honestly, again, I think the NFC North is going to be one of those divisions where it was like the NFC.
They beat up on each other a few years ago. Long. Yeah.
Where it's like, they're fighting for the division well into November, into December. Like someone might separate themselves at the top, but underneath is going to be a lot of fighting. I think it's going to be a close year. So I think the Bears offense will look a little bit better. Justin Fields should have a little bit more time to throw. And even if he doesn't, he has speed at some skill positions where he kind of get the ball out quick and let them work. So
let them work. Yeah.
I don't. Okay.
It's funny you say that about the Bears fan talking about if he has any time, blah, 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 because I literally had dinner with friends while I was in Green Bay. And one of the friends brought along a friend who is a Bears fan, and he was talking mad junk about Fields and like how much better he was going to be this year because of the additions. But he did say, I understand why Fields takes so much guff, especially, from Packers fans because of his poor definitely the metrics all line up to say he's had a very, very poor start to his NFL career as a passer. But he kept saying, like, go back and look at his college tape. And if you give him time, he can make the reads. He can make all the throws. And I'm like, yeah, but that's true of a lot of college quarterbacks.
Right.
Like a lot of times that doesn't mean anything once you get to the NFL because things do speed up and because protection is a lot harder to kind of sort through. And like, I think he's got all the tools. I don't think there's any doubt there. I just don't know if he ever puts it together from an accuracy standpoint. And he's got all these new tools to work with at the receiver position, etc. But yeah, I don't know, man. I'm praying Ja gets at least one pick in this opening game because I need to see it when he gets the strap on, and puts it down and goes strap city on him because I need that in my life. Okay, so looking at week 1, a lot of talent has been brought in to Chicago this summer. They had the number 1 pick, which they traded out of. They went in on Fields. They surrounded him with a ton of stuff. Is it enough, Camille, to beat the Packers in week 1 and finally get the Chicago Bears off the schneid? Or do the Packers, with Jordan Love at the helm, continue ownership over our friends there in the Windy City?
Oh boy, no matter who wins this game, it's going to be a terrible week for the other fan base. Yes,
it's so true. It's so true.
Personally, I still think overall the Packers have more talent. Just if you look at the quarterback position, I would still give Jordan, and it's hard because it's like Jordan doesn't have much tape. You've seen Justin Fields for 2 years. Who do you give that? Even if you want to call those two a wash, I wouldn't. But if you would call those two a wash, I look around at the other positions, the other skill positions, the rest of the team, the defenses, and I still think the Packers are a better team than what the Bears are. So if I had to put a score prediction on it, I would say the Packers beat the Bears this weekend 24-17.
That's almost no joke. I was going to say 27-21 Packers. I do think I can't. It's so funny because I've gone back now and watched the 2 Bears games from last season a couple of times, leading up to this thing. And it's so funny how in control the Bears looked in that game in Chicago. Now, it was cold. It was the end of the year, windy, what have you. So it's a very different environment. But they were in control of that game. And then finally Aaron settled down and stopped throwing it deep to Randall Cobb on 3rd and 1 when he had no chance and all that stuff. And once the Packers got going, I do wonder about that aspect of it. Like, how does the game open up and transpire? And what is Jordan going to be asked to do out of the gate? Like, if they're able to run the ball on the Bears, which they did very successfully the last 2 times they met, I think that's game. Like, if the Bears can stop the Packers' rushing attack, then it's a ball game. Yeah. But I think if A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones get going, that's a wrap. Because I just think they're going to have to commit numbers, and then they've got enough scheme. All you got to do is look at, Christian Watson's touchdown on the end around last year to know they've got the explosiveness. They can take advantage of what's necessary there. But if the Bears can stop the running attack and make Jordan kind of go win the game, that's the Bears' path to victory in my mind. But we'll see. I don't know. But yeah, I would definitely say 27-21, only because I can't imagine a world where week 1 rolls around and Joe Barry's defense actually clamps someone down to 17 points. Otherwise, I'd say. So I'm giving the Bears 3 touchdowns just because it's Joe Barry. But hey, Joe, I know you're an ardent watcher, listener of Cheesehead TV's content. So let me tell you, buddy, you proved me wrong, and I'll admit it. And I will get on board with this defense, but I got to see it. I definitely got to see it.
We don't want to be Charlie Brown again.
Nope. Don't need that in my life at all. All right. Well, this has been a phenomenal kickoff episode of Carry the G in MKE. I know you mentioned it right at the top, but remind people where they can find you either on social or any of your other content, just so they can track all your work.
Yeah, for sure. So my internet. Socials, Twitter, aka X, Instagram at Camille Monet, CamilleMonae. And then you can find me weekly on the Technical File podcast, live on our YouTube channel, as well as wherever you listen to podcasts the following day, every Wednesday. We record live on Tuesdays on our YouTube. So if you ever want to come be a part of the show, part of the comments, we interact a lot with the people who join the live stream. So come do that as well. And then you can catch me on a weekly basis on Locked On Bucks as soon as the season starts kicking back up a little bit more here.
I love it. Camille, this is so great. I'm so excited. We're going to be doing this every
Mhm.
week. I'll talk to you in a week, and go Pack Go.
For sure.